Now, after we know in management choke in the previous slides, the difference in the fluid resuscitation and adjusting the dose of fluid and the infusion and the total volume according to patient condition, we will talk about the difference in using the vasopressor. You have to know the two basic principles in choke management, especially in pediatric population, to know first the fluid, volume and rate and time needed to be given for your patient. Based on the parameters of your patient, you have to know which fluid you will use and what's the volume, what is the rate, and how to monitor fluid response. And this is the most important point which differentiates between the professional clinical pharmacist and an ordinary one. The second most important step, the vasopressor. Vasopressor selection, it is one also of the most important task and you can say most important talent for the clinical pharmacist to optimize the choke management in pediatric population especially. Why? Because the choice of vasopressor depend on the type of choke and also depend on the time of the management. If it is early choke, which means warm choke, or if it is late choke, which means cold choke. Actually, most of guideline in pediatric population don't focus mainly on the difference between cold and warm. Why? Because in pediatric, as we said, the develop happened fast. So they are considered most of the choke, especially septic choke, is a cold choke. What's the difference between warm choke and cold choke? Warm choke, it means the heart is still working properly, but the problem in the fluid volume, in the blood volume, or in the vasodilatation, abnormal vasodilatation, as we said in septic choke. So we need something to counteract the vasodilatation of the vessel. So we are using vasopressor acting only on blood vessels, cause vasoconstriction and less effect on the heart. But in cold choke, late choke, after some time when a choke not managed properly, the heart start to reduce its pumping power. So because there is no fluid and there is no or less cardiac output, so the heart start to slow down. So I need something to refresh the heart, to increasing the pumping power of the heart at late stages. So I will use vasopressor acting on the heart mainly more than blood vessels. As we know in the pharmacology, like fast review, that the vasopressor has many classification, but the most two basic categories of the vasopressor, which is acting on alpha blocker or beta blocker. If the vasopressor acting on alpha blocker, so its affinity to blood vessels will be more than the heart, like norepinephrine, acting more affinity to the blood vessels, causing vasoconstriction, and has some affinity, less affinity to the beta blocker, so its effect on the heart is less. But epinephrine, for example, has more affinity to beta agonist, so it will act on the heart, which beta receptor located there, so it will cause vasoconstriction, it will cause the increase the contractility power of the heart more than blood vessels. So in cold choke here, if we see in the slide, in cold choke, and this almost common in children, in septic choke, when cardiac output is less and systemic vascular resistance is more. Systemic vascular resistance, it is the explain the tonicity of the blood vessels. When systemic vascular resistance, when it is high, it means the blood vessels is constricted, vasoconstricted to increase blood flow. When it is low, SVR low, it means that the blood vessel is dilated, so the blood flow will be less. So if I have less cardiac output and increase systemic vascular resistance, it means that pediatric developed cold shock. This is late stage of shock. At this time, I need my first line will be epinephrine to act on the heart itself. But in practice, this is theoretically somehow, but in practice, mainly they are using both of them, acting on the heart by epinephrine and acting on blood vessels by norepinephrine. This is, you can see more in the PICU in the clinical practice. As we said here, that epinephrine acting mainly on beta 1 and beta 2, beta 1 mainly more than alpha 1. In warm septic, which means early stage of septic, SVR is less and the normal, almost normal cardiac output. So at this time, if I detected in the pediatric, and this is very hard to be detected, norepinephrine will be the first line, the best choice, without acting on the heart more before restore the blood volume, as we said, before adding an enough amount of fluid. So norepinephrine, and this is the range of the dose as infusion, of course, in epinephrine 0.05 to 1, but in norepinephrine 0.05 to 2, because norepinephrine acting on blood vessels, so I don't have like main concern related to the increasing infusion dose, but the epinephrine acting on the heart, so my upper limit is 1. Norepinephrine acting on alpha 1 more than beta 1, so it is potent vasoconstrictor and restore systemic vascular resistance. In cardiogenic, as we said, in cardiogenic shock, the pump machine is a problem. There is heart failure, so I need vasopressor acting on the heart. At this time, I need something increase the contractility of the heart, so I will use epinephrine or dobutamine, and in some cases Milrinone. But for pediatric, mainly from clinical practice, also they preferred Milrinone because dobutamine has some concern. Epinephrine or dobutamine or Milrinone, it will increase the contractility. Dose of epinephrine 0.05 to 0.3 microgram per kg per minute, dobutamine from 2 to 20. In refractory, if the patient received vasopressor but still there is no the deserved response, what I should do? At this time, I will categorize this as catecholamine resistant shock. So I will add vasopressor. Also with the normal vasopressor, I will not stop epinephrine or norepinephrine, but I will add vasopressor as adjunctive medicine. And the dose should be very less because vasopressor is a most potent vasopressin. Yes, is a most potent vasopressor. So the dose will be, as you see, 0.0003 to 0.002 units per kg per minute. And here the vasopressin dose by unit, not by microgram. And this is also one of the common mistakes happen while the physician prescribe the dose of vasopressin. The difference between vasopressin and the other catecholamine, the catecholamine calculated by microgram, but vasopressin the dose by unit. And also here some clinical mistake happen also while prescribing the order of vasopressin, that they are calculated as units per kg per hour without multiplying by 60. So this cause also overdose. So you need to, before verification of vasopressin, you need to confirm the unit and you need to confirm the rate. The physician wants it per minute or per hour. In case of vasopressin also not giving me the desired response, I will shift to the corticosteroid. Corticosteroid, the only corticosteroid which is approved to be used in septic shock in case of refractory cases condition, is hydrocortisone only. I will not use dexamethasone or prednisolone or whatever. Only hydrocortisone is the approved agent for septic or catecholamine resistance refractory septic shock. The dose should be either 50 milligram by meter square per day divided by 6 hours, which is almost equal to 1.5 milligram per kg per day, and don't wait until to make monitor for cortisol because it's life-threatening condition, and also it's considered like criteria for code blue in the hospitals, which means it's very urgent, life-threatening condition. Sometimes they are using whatever in the crash cart. The pharmacists who working in hospitals, they know this these terms. From hydrocortisone, they are not waiting the verification process from pharmacy because, as I said, it's life-threatening condition.